Hello again from my front porch. Well, tonight I'm actually coming to you because I have something really important to address. Now, I've said I'm not going to make these videos political, and I'm committed to that. I'm not going to make these political. However, there may be times when there is an important topic, an issue that is particularly significant to myself or to others that I might want to address here. Like, for example, I had my friend Jana West on here recently talking about things with puppy farms and puppy mills and so some of the animal rights kind of things of that nature. We sometimes go to extremes and we say that we're either for or against something, and I think that's absurd because on almost any issue or any topic, I can tell you good things about it, and I can tell you things I don't agree with about it. So does that mean that I support it or I don't support it? Yes and no. That's one of the problems that I have with our society is that we strive so much to try to make things as simple as possible and to make it an either or choice on things all the time. And I think we artificially do that because there are very few matters that our nation faces today that really are strictly right, wrong, black, white. I mean, there are oftentimes nuances of rightness on both sides, as well as there are nuances of utter stupidity on both sides, and that actually I think is becoming more and more of the norm, sadly so. And which brings me to the thing that I wanted to address. As those of you who've watched this show know, because I've talked about before, I have the I consider very high privilege of serving on the Central Iowa Workforce Development Board. Now, that entity, among other things, oversees what they call the One-Stop Center here in Des Moines, the One-Stop Center for our region, and that's the place that traditionally back in the day was called the Unemployment Office, and now it's called the Iowa Works Office, because it's not, while it is a place that you can go in and do some paperwork regarding unemployment benefits, that's not really its primary function anymore. Its primary function is to help workers be able to get into the workforce. Whether you're an unemployed worker, an underemployed worker, somebody who, well, sure, technically you are working, but at a salary amount way below where you ought to be or even where you need to be. That makes you an underemployed worker. So we got unemployed workers, underemployed workers, we have disabled workers or individuals with disabilities, and those disabilities could be physical in nature, they could be mental in nature, there could be whatever the disability might be, but it's some obstacle that prevents them from being able to seek gainful employment. And a lot of times those obstacles are not really necessary. They're more traditional or more an issue of things that our society has just written off certain people. You know, if you're blind, well, you can't really do this job. Actually, there are a lot of ways that somebody who's blind can do many jobs that are out there that might take some accommodation. However, when those accommodations are met, that person can be just as productive, maybe even more than the average person that would walk in off the street. And so the One-Stop Center works with those kind of people too, that have obstacles, whatever that obstacle may be, to help them get over. And increasingly, we have refugee and immigrant population growth here in the Des Moines area, Central Iowa, and the 7 counties represented by Region 11 that I'm on the board of. We have a number of, in fact, there's some schools, like just not school districts, but school buildings, one school entity here in Des Moines that can have over 30 different countries, cultures, languages represented in that one school building, in one elementary school or one middle school, in that one facility. Now think about that for a minute. Now, those immigrants, those refugees, they show up seeking a new life, the American dream. They may have been very skilled and knowledgeable and highly respected back in their own country, but they show up here and we put them through the ringer. We treat them like they don't know anything, and we hire them to do bottom level jobs when they may have been a top level person with amazing skills back home, but because they weren't they don't have a degree from an American university, or they weren't licensed by an American entity, we make them jump through all of these hoops just to prove they really are as smart here as they were back where they came from. Now, I understand there has to be some of that. Trust me, I'm not saying that stuff is all completely out of line. However, we do tend to make it hard on people to just simply get a job. Now, there's also, though, the dislocated workers that get help through this one-stop center location. Dislocated workers meaning those who got laid off, or who were gainfully employed and are now no longer gainfully employed through no fault of their own. They just got dislocated because of downsizing, or because a company shuttered up and closed down. Whatever the reason may be, that's why that individual is now unemployed. And so these are the kind of individuals who the One Stop Center focuses on helping. And last year alone, the last fiscal year alone, the One Stop Center just here in Des Moines, Iowa, and again, that's just 7 counties here in Iowa. Out of the 99 counties in Iowa, just 7 counties here in Iowa. Last year, that one facility here in Des Moines, it worked with over 19,600 people who were first time, brand new into that system. The year before, they'd only served over 11,000 people. Now, that's huge. That is phenomenal. That's at roughly an 8,000 person increase from the previous year to just this last year that's just wrapped up. And that's at a time when we're constantly being told by the press releases from political figures that the economy is stronger, it's improving, we're rebounding. No. Yes, the economy is still struggling along, but it is a flat economy. It is flat. And there are very few new jobs being created that really are jobs to be envied. Most jobs being created are either temporary jobs, contract jobs, or in service sector jobs, or jobs that traditionally wouldn't even pay minimum wage, or maybe would pay minimum wage. These are not the kind of jobs that people need to be getting in order to support their family. We talk all this time about we need to raise the minimum wage so that people can make enough money to pay their bills. That's the wrong discussion. That's the wrong discussion. The discussion is, why are the people who need more money to pay their bills only able to work in a minimum wage job? Why is there not an opportunity for them to step into a higher paying job? Because that's the main thing the One Stop Center is focused on, is helping people get into those kind of situations. Well, one of the biggest issues is a skill gap that they have right now. Because we have fairly low unemployment in Iowa, and especially here in central Iowa, in the counties, the 7 counties that my board works with. And some people dismiss and say, well, unemployment is low, therefore there's not as much need. No. Excuse me. Unemployment is low because we're only counting the people who are actually drawing unemployment benefits. There are a lot of people that no longer even qualify for unemployment benefits that are still unemployed, underemployed, those kind of situations. And they still need to get over that hurdle. In most cases, what the individual needs is training to be able to fill that skill gap. We have job openings. We have individuals seeking employment. The individuals seeking employment, they can only get the low-level jobs because they don't have the skill and knowledge to get the middle-level jobs that have the openings over here. These are better paying jobs. These would be jobs that we want these people to get into, but you can't just walk in off the street and do them. What do you do then? Catch-22? No, because this one-stop center actually helps people get on their feet and helps them to learn the skills they need to become employable again, to be able to strike out into an industry sector that is still there, whereas the job they previously had in a factory or whatever other kind of thing it was that got shut down, that no longer exists. What they were doing, and maybe they did it for years and years and years, that job just simply may not be viable anymore. And in order for them to survive, they have to get a better job. And so the one-stop center helps them to find out what they should move on to, what they can progress to. And that's huge. That's so huge. And yet, the current administration has recommended massive cuts in these programs. The U.S. House Appropriations Committee has recommended a budget that also has massive cuts. And we're not talking, and I'm not talking about, you'll hear political activists sometimes say things like, there's going to be these massive cuts, when what they're really meaning is there's not going to be an increase, and they're counting that as a cut. I'm not talking about that kind of thing. I mean, they're actually cutting in half funding, or in some cases, wanting to cut completely to zero funding that these programs have been using. And that is just absolutely insane. This is not the time for those things to be happening. And yes, I know that both the White House and the Congress are both controlled by the same political party right now, and it'd be very easy to take what I'm saying as an attack on those parties. That is not at all what I'm doing. If anything, I'm attacking the individuals making these decisions. They just happen to be in the same party. This partisanship has nothing to do with this. It has to do with stupid decision making. Just 3 years ago, just 3 years ago, both chambers of Congress, the House and the Senate, passed the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act almost unanimously. You could count on your fingers the number of those in both the House and the Senate who didn't approve. That's how few voted no. All the rest of them said yes. After 15 years of not having anything new in terms of legislation to assist workforce development things, they did this. They passed this almost unanimously just 3 years ago, and now they want to gut the funding for most of the programs there. Now, the Trump administration has pushed a lot into apprenticeships, and that's great. Apprenticeships are good. I don't fault that at all. But all our eggs cannot go into that one basket, because that is not the magic silver bullet to fix everything. So anyway, today we had our quarterly Workforce Development Board meeting, and I presented information to the board members about these cuts and about actions that we needed to take to reach out to our legislators, our members of Congress, to tell them to do not allow this funding cut to happen. And so I want to take a few moments here tonight as it's getting dark all around me. It's probably my dimmest one. Can you still see me? Are you still there? Here, maybe I should move you over here. Then you can still see my face at least again as the sun is setting in the west. But in all seriousness, this is something, as you know, because again, I serve on the local Workforce Development Board. This is a passion for me. This is something that I care a great deal about, and because of that, I think it is very, very important for there to be action for us to step in and say, members of Congress, do not do this stupid thing. Do not gut these programs. This is not, I just told you, in the one stop just here in Des Moines, Iowa, we had an 8,000 person increase of just the new people coming in, needing help and support because they got dislocated, because they became unemployed from their jobs and they needed help getting back into the workforce. That's just in 7 counties in the middle of Iowa. Now, stretch that out over the state. Stretch that out over the nation. This is not the time. Our economy is still struggling. We need to be investing in ourselves, in our workforce, to getting people back into gainful employment. So we stop arguing about where's the minimum wage amount, but we actually get people back into jobs that pay them real money so that they have disposable income, that they can pay their bills, they can pay their taxes, instead of being on welfare programs and public assistance programs taking from the community. They can be contributing back to the community through their tax monies, and with greater amounts of disposable income. They can help support the service industries and the sales industries and the things that also need people to buy their stuff so they can continue to employ. There is a domino effect here that happens, and the only way it happens is when people have jobs, when people are working. And we've got to get them in there, and we've got to make sure that the current administration and the current Congress do not foolishly cut the legs out from these programs. So anyway, I'm going to be making every effort I can to be weighing in and getting these members of Congress, and I'm not worried about the White House, frankly, because based on the comments of President Trump, I don't think that there's going to be any chance to change his opinion or the opinion of whoever's whispering in his ear to do these absolutely stupid, moronic actions. And that's just my opinion, of course. But I am going to be reaching out to members of Congress because they can be swayed to vote the right way. And so I'm going to be doing that. And if you would be interested in also jumping on this bandwagon, and if you would like to help, I can drop me a note, drop me an inbox, or make a note on the video here, wherever, and let me know that you would like to receive that information, and I will gladly share what information I can with you. Keep in mind, my information is prepared for Iowa. If you live in another state, I can help you with tracking down how to get a hold of your individual, and I can give you at least some rough template or talking points. You wouldn't be able to use the actual data that I've used to create the talking points that we're using here, because again, it's Iowa, but still, it could give you a starting point. So anyway, normally I wouldn't take time in the evening to do this, especially since it's getting so dark on me now. And again, I've moved it, and again, I'm here. Listen, let me try to move it over here a little bit more so you can see me just before we're all wrapped up. So I'm not trying to make light of it. I'm trying to be serious about this. This is again an issue that matters a great deal to me, and it matters a great deal to the people who need this assistance, who need this help and this support. As I've said several times now, this is not the time to consider pulling the legs out from under these programs and leaving people just to fend for themselves. That is not going to help our economy, and ultimately it's not going to help our budget either. Even if we trim some programs now and can brag, look how much we cut out of the budget. Yeah, well, those chickens will come home to roost very soon when we have a huge number of people who remain on public service or public assistance much longer than they ought to be. And so please, if you're interested in assisting with this effort, let me know. If it's okay, you don't have to, but I'm going to be doing this because it's the right thing to do. So with that, and because you're probably barely able to see me anymore, I'm barely able to see me on the camera, I'm going to say goodbye, or good night, and I'll see you next time from my front porch.